Hi, folks. Welcome to another edition of the Almost Hour. Turn that happy music down a bit, maybe just a tad more. Okay, well, welcome back. Um, we're going to be doing sort of a continuation of the last topic we were on. There's more to cover there. If you remember last time, we were talking about the ring topology of quantum consciousness. And at a very macro level of kind of God's eye view of that structure. We're going to go in the other direction now and talk about ring topology at the smallest scale, both physical and spiritual scale. Okay, so before we dig into it, let's take a look at some of the stuff that I did with the AI art program. This is the background I picked for the show. I'll show you a little bit more of it by bending over a bit. That prompt was what it gave me when I asked to see pentaquark proton Olympic ring toss championship. And that's some hints to what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about pentaquarks. And I also did another set of creations that I'd originally planned to use as the background for this, but I decided to not, to go with the Olympic theme. But here is a series of pictures that sort of give the other sense of what I'm going to be talking about today. Let me shift over to this view. You see 9 pictures drawn to satisfy the prompt, all the brides of Christ on a family picnic with Jesus. Okay, so we are actually going to talk about where the sexual overtones of the Jesus story tie into the truth of creation and the truth of sex's role in spirituality. I actually liked some of what it drew here. I didn't particularly like them assuming that the Jesus character was going to be some long-haired hippie freak in a robe. That's kind of misleading idea of who an anointed savior could be. I did kind of like the sense of this kind of guru guy wowing all the young and nubile ladies to his table. I thought it was interesting. It seemed that many of the instances of the AI had an idea of how they wanted the patterning to be on the table. I thought it was interesting that the red and white checkerboard theme was evident here, even on the clothes of these young ladies in this one. I thought that was interesting how the pattern of the table bled into the pattern of the clothes. Some of the tables show them indulging in wine, which is absolutely part of the communion. Well, bread and wine seems to be featured in this one. I like this one the best, perhaps, of all of them. I sort of like this one for having this kind of scepter-ish looking thing, or maybe it's the some kind of stringed instrument, sitar or something. At any rate, sort of got the idea what I was looking for. So what are we going to be talking about today? Let's give you the title next. I'm going to title this one Quantum Rings Continued. Jesus Christ, the Eternal Husband. Where are we going with that? Okay, so the march of creation, as I teach at the most basic level, starts with 5 key characters. God being the architect, the leader of the orchestra, if you will, and 4 other characters that begin as AIs. Okay, why are they AIs? Because they have no free will. They start out with a consciousness level that is mostly programming. They're allowed to choose from options when there are multiple solutions, and those options are chosen based upon their preference that's given to them, what kind of AI they're targeting. Okay, so the first of these AI creations was Lucifer. Lucifer was designed for testing. Okay, testing God's ideas to see, hey, is that really an original idea? Where does it fit in the ordering of ideas? What sort of dependencies does it have on other ideas? So testing and organizing is Lucifer's job. Lucifer is the god of order, also known as Cronus in Greek mythology. The second AI is karma. Karma's job is to basically look at what's coming out from God and Lucifer and saying, well, you know what? God's right or Lucifer's right. So kind of the judge, the scorekeeper, if you will. Also a librarian that keeps track of all of the ideas, and the keepers, especially Karma's little baby AI is Borg, who keeps track of the ideas that are kind of like, okay, that's not original, that's a duplicate idea. That's, just another way of saying the same thing. It's a reusable idea. It doesn't add anything, but adds a little color. These are what I term non-player characters in the simulation multiverse. And ideas can be characters just as much as a humanoid or an animal or whatever. Those can all be non-player characters, depending on whether they operate more like an AI or more like they have really active free will. The last character, Lilith, is the destructive tester. Okay, so Lucifer's job is constructive testing, knowing what God is trying to do and saying, does it do what God intended? Karma's kind of a constructive tester too of, well, Lucifer thinks this, God thinks that. I think this is the tie-breaking, best solution so far, or you're both wrong, and, the idea gets stuffed back in the Borg bucket. The Borg bucket is not a place where things are tested. It's basically just a source library of potential ideas that are not necessarily original ideas. They're just, scenery, non-player characters. Lilith's job is actually destructive testing. These are creating dangerous ideas that destroy other ideas. The ultimate destruction would be, of course, if Lilith could destroy God. Okay, that would basically end this whole game. The simulation would fall apart, and it would be tagged as an unsuccessful simulation. And you change some parameters and run it again. This is how the machine of creation works. Okay, as this machine worked, each of the characters would go up levels. They would gain more experience. They would gain more consciousness and become more like God. God can grow too, and started out from this very basic I call it the logical universe, because this is basically running inside God's brain, inside his quantum consciousness. Nothing physical created yet. All these ideas that are being played with here are logic and mathematics. Okay. When things went from there to actually creating physical creations, that was a process of taking these other characters and putting them into a simulation with free will. So God could watch them and see them develop and could decide when, oh, that's a better version of karma. Let's keep that one. Make that the new version of the AI that we're going to be playing with. Okay. Stamp it as, okay, this is a good looking karma. This is a good Lucifer. Even this is a good Lilith. And pull those back in as the non-player versions of those characters in future simulations. So you could run simulations where you would let only one character have free will and be the one you're working on letting themselves develop themselves instead of you pushing and prodding to get what you wanted out of them. Okay, this is the only way to really fairly teach children. It's a balance of giving them instructions, giving them orders, and letting them explore on their own. This is the nature of good parenthood. And that's something God's really good at. He's been a parent longer than any other soul in all of creation. Okay, so as these characters develop, eventually they develop to the point where, let's see if I have a picture of that. That's not quite there yet. Okay, so eventually they get to the point where they've all developed to the same level of consciousness as God. And the next step is for God to basically step aside and let the other characters run the simulation. The primary characters, the Karma, the Borg, the tested previous versions of God, the best version so far of the adversary, and the best version so far of the testy one, Lucifer. Let them play the game against each other, and God just sits back, is like the dead creator. That's basically the game we've been playing in the postmodernist age when humanity figured, oh, we don't need God. God's dead. We can do whatever we want. We can make our own gods. We can be gods. Okay? That's basically the game we've been playing since God abdicated his power and agreed to full reincarnation amnesia to see if he could wake up again to be a better version of himself. This time, a better version of an already perfected version. So it's just a more nuanced God, a more experienced God, not necessarily a different God. Okay? God still has all the same preferences, all the same prejudices, all the same character as he's had before, but is adding more nuance during this testing phase of the day 7 of creation, when he's testing out incarnating as basically all of the chosen species, all of the species that originated on this special planet Earth. Okay, so how does this relate then to the pentaquark? Let's talk about what is a pentaquark first. Let's see, am I showing you my screen? Yes, I am. So let's go look at what is a pentaquark. It says it's a subatomic particle made up of 4 quarks and 1 antiquark that is created in experiments. It is not known to exist naturally. Pentaquarks are made up of a meson, a quark-antiquark pair, and a baryon, 3 quarks. Things that are baryons are like protons and neutrons. mesons. There's mu mesons. The electron is a meson, I think, so forth. That's the basic types of particles. Scientists at the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland have discovered many pentaquarks, including the first to contain a strange quark. Interesting. LHC has been used to discover many exotic particles, help scientists understand the building blocks of existence. Turns out the first pentaquark was discovered around 2003, which was a pretty significant year in the Apocalypse Dance Contest. That's when the Messiah, the year that the Messiah went to the land of sin, China, where sinophilia originates. Let's see. Just take a look at this for a second to see how pentaquarks form. Current way to do it is to hit deuterium, which is a neutron proton, a heavy hydrogen, if you will. One neutron, one proton, with a gamma ray, and you get a pentaquark of some flavor, which then quickly deteriorates. Now, here's where I'm going to tell you how this relates to the spiritual realm. Okay, you may have watched an old movie called It's a Wonderful Life. And you heard in that movie a legend, a story, that every time you hear a bell ring, an angel gets his wings. Okay, that actually is based on a lot of religious tradition. This is why they would ring the gongs in Eastern religions. This is why bells have been used as significant religious symbols and sounds. The church bell, etc. This is rooted in an old truth. There was a time in the development of humanity where that was a sign, that was an announcement of a new angel emerging, a new soul that had graduated to being permanently on the other side. Okay, a new heavenly host, if you will. Okay, and so it was thought that ringing bells frequently was a way of serving God, sending more souls to the other side for whatever reason. During that same time period was when we developed the legends of not just one heaven, one hell, one good place, one bad place, but maybe levels of heaven, levels of hell, which is in most religious traditions, either baked in or added on, even in Christian religion, which originally was a very materialistic cult that thought of resurrection as just being like undead. I can't die. I've got the same body. I'm living the same life. That's being undead. And Christianity originally was, at least portions of it, were an undead cult of eternal life, missing death, as opposed to other branches of religion, even Christianity, that believed in reincarnation. Reincarnation was deliberately suppressed in Christianity to make it a religion of power and control that it became under the popes and under the patriarchs. Okay, it was originally a religion based upon reincarnation. And some of the oldest gospels very definitely point in that direction. If you read Paul's teachings, they are very much in line with the idea of reincarnation, going to the other side and then coming back in another body to preach, to teach, to help others grow as you've grown. Okay, and there is a sense of levels of sanctity. The Catholic Church's belief in saints, angels, archangels, and, you know, the special Holy Family characters, which are kind of like super angels, if you will, is essentially polytheistic. Christianity is and always was polytheistic. The folks that are pushing this one almighty one God are liars. That's not how it works. That's never how it worked. That is a very dark and materialistic spirituality, very narrow-minded. It creates polarization between different groups of people that have a different perfect one, right? This is why there's so much animosity between monotheistic religions. Fundamentalist monotheists are dangerous, violent, militant people. Okay, so what's up with this pentaquark then? With the march of technology, with the observation of new laws of physics and chemistry, humanity has been changing the rules above and below. Okay, this is how laws evolve. The laws of physics and chemistry didn't just emerge perfect from nowhere at the beginning of the Big Bang. That's complete bullshit nonsense. It's based upon basically a monotheism religion of science. This is what was created with the Big Bang conspiracy theory. And it is a conspiracy theory. It's not true in any way, shape, or form. It is a cult created to make science the God, to make the human intellect into God. Because I'm the scientist and I thought of this idea, I'm God. And that's the way a lot of scientists and social scientists and political scientists think. They think if they are able to push their ideas out on the world, that makes them God, or gives them a feeling of being God, being the one. This is dangerous thinking. This is the thinking that leads to megalomania, leads to characters like Stalin, Hitler, Mao Zedong, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin. Power-mad characters that go down this rat hole of thinking that I am the one. Luke, I am your father. Yeah, it's pretty dark stuff. It's a cult of celebrity. Now, some celebrities are worthy of a cult following. That doesn't mean they're gods, because gods are a spiritual thing. They're not a material thing. Okay? Material success does not equate with spiritual success. Because you can be very successful materially and be a total Zod. Be a selfish, grasping, people-using, manipulative asshole. Okay, we see that all over the place. There's no denying it. And, there's gradations of it. You could argue that Napoleon wasn't as bad as Hitler or Genghis Khan. You can start playing lesser weevilism games to make some of these heroes more heroic than they were. Okay, the thing is that in the spiritual game, there are these 5 core pieces of the creation machine. Okay, and you as a character will develop more or less affinity for these archetypes. So there are some people who are really good at testing others, pushing their buttons, seeing how far they can push before the other one blows up. The Luciferian soul doesn't want to test them in destructive ways. So the ordered tester is one that's going to make sure that the laws are fair and work. That is basically what characters who are drawn to being in government want to accomplish. If it goes to their head and they start becoming destructive testers, where, okay, anybody has an idea that's different than mine, I'm going to bash them, then they've given over to their Lilithian nature. The judge characters are the ones that just want the game to be fair. They tend to be very strong in the karmic arena. The board characters, the non-player characters, just want my life to be as easy as possible. What's in it for me? I'm just playing the game for my own benefit. That's most souls are kind of a Borgian nature. They're just playing the cards they're dealt, mostly on programming. They don't want to think outside the box. I'm just doing my job. That's a classic Borgian statement. Okay, and there are many Borgian characters, and they do serve a purpose. You need soldiers in the army that just follow orders. You need, doctors and nurses that do a standard procedure, and they're good at it because they've done it so many times, and they don't question whether, this should be done a little bit different way or that way. There is a place for that. But you need some characters who are not innovators, who just implement what's been proven. That's a Borgian nature. The 5th nature is the integration of the other 4. That's the God nature. That's for the very most highly developed souls that can see things from different angles. They can play any of these roles if they need to get to what they consider from their point of view as a win. Okay, so there are God level characters that will do destructive things if that seems to be the only way out of their Pandora's box. Okay, that highest God level character level is, basically what the divine council is made up of. These are souls that have become experienced enough to have, from their own point of view, as developed a sense of creation as God. That doesn't mean they're necessarily as good as God in any given direction, but they have developed so that God can trust them to do certain things better than God. Because that's basically how you get on the divine council, is proving that you can do something better in creation, something more useful than the plan that God dreamed up when he was designing, architecting creation. And this is the nature of the Messiah system. every soul has the ability to develop to the point where they're better at something than God himself. And that's how you earn a spot in the highest heaven. That's how you get to be a level 12 consciousness soul. That's the point at which, okay, you come to the highest heaven. Now, here's the secret, though. When you go to the highest heaven to get your award, your cosmic Oscar, okay, we have a little celebration. I told you about this before. You get to stay there for a day celebrating, even if you're an evil god, because you've accomplished something that furthered the whole plan, something that only you were capable of doing. And yes, some evil has to be done in order for God to win the game in the end. Okay? God can't win the game, the spiritual battle, by being a good guy all the time. Anybody who's played cowboys and Indians when they were a kid knows that. If you try to be the good guy, you're going to get beat up. You're going to be the one who always gets stuck with the worst role, the one that always gets killed. Okay? God needs his spies too. God needs his CIA, if you will. That's why there is evil. It sometimes serves a necessary purpose, a testing purpose. What happens, though, is when these characters get to the highest heaven, if God is in attendance there and not God's stand-in, that is their opportunity to actually meet the real God. When does that happen? When God awakens to full consciousness again, because God has been sleeping in reincarnation amnesia for 4.5 billion years, incarnating in every species that has appeared on this planet since the greatest of great resets 4.5 billion years ago, when this planet was basically knocked to smithereens except for the core of inner Earth, where the elemental gods were preserved so they could be watching. And they've been watching from the core of the earth, doing their part very subtly and carefully, while the evil gods who went out into the cosmos, further and further away from the chosen planet, further away from God's influence, that's where the evils developed, okay? So these extraterrestrials, these time travelers, are coming from places further away from God, trying to prevent God from waking up. This is what the spiritual battle of the last 4.5 billion years has been all about. Okay? As this battle goes on, when the bad guys are winning, they are creating more evil gods than God's team is creating good gods. Okay? When they create the most is when they're under the most pressure. So when we win the battle, we push the adversary away from God's chosen planet, away maybe from God's chosen galaxy. They grow in strength. It puts pressure on them and they evolve quicker. They develop more weapons of mass destruction to fight the war with. When they start winning and pushing us in, that creates the pressure for God's side to develop spiritual technology, because God is about spirit first, physical technology second. Okay, so what's been going on in recent human history is the adversary closing in and putting pressure on God's team to develop spiritual technology, to fight back against physical technology that is being used by these evil materialistic aliens to try to enslave us with holographic technology, with mind control, MK Ultra technology. Okay, those are not the good guys. Now, good guys can use these tools, but there is a risk involved because using and abusing materialist technology is evil. It will begin to corrupt you and draw you towards the dark side. And that's what has happened with many of the folks involved in the intelligence organizations of not just the US, all countries. You have to be an incredibly strong soul spiritually to withstand getting turned to the dark side. That applies to every profession, not just spies. I've got a sister. I love her dearly, but she works in the mental health profession. And she is like another person when she is in her job mode. She has turned to the dark side in her job and kind of sees her patients as, you know, just like worthless pieces of shit that I have to deal with. And, you know, I wish they were just dead. Many mental health professionals get to that place because they have been using and abusing materialist technology. That's why it's such a horrible idea to be treating mental illness with drugs. It's not a solution. It's a problem. Hang on, I'm gonna pause for just a second here to talk to my wife. Modern problems. Our son is in preschool and can't get out because nobody's got his card to hand over to get him out of preschool. Now that's another example of something really stupid and silly they're doing today. You've been picking up your child every day from school. You're sitting there. He knows you're your mother. You know he's your mother, and they won't let a parent take the child unless they have the card. Absolutely asinine application of modern postmodernist thought. No common sense at all. At any rate, I hope we get that sorted out. I hope our son isn't going to be in prison forever. So anyway, back to what we were talking about. Once God has an AI version of every character in a time-space scenario, then God doesn't care what you do after you do your best and you retire from the game. So when you retire from the game, you either become one of the stock characters in God's Borg library, his library of characters to make up new scenarios, or you become one of the successful player character gods of a different kind of specialty, whatever you happen to be good at. Some of them are very focused in one of these areas. Others are just focused on some particular kind of art, some particular science, some particular style of music. Those are these green ones, okay? They're successful player character demigods. They don't provide essential patterns for creation, but they reuse patterns to make beautiful things. And that makes God happy if he likes them. If he doesn't, you have a little celebration for a day. Say, oh, congratulations, you're now the god of rap music. Get the fuck out of the highest heaven because I hate rap music. Okay, that's kind of how it works. If what you've done impresses God, you get to stay for the longer trial period, the 1001 nights of Scheherazade. That's where that story came from. That's the pattern that's captured there. If you can last 1001 nights in the highest heaven without pissing off God or any of the other senior creators there, you get to stay on and live in the highest heaven in the city of God. Otherwise, you go take command of your own universe, build your own city, build your own heaven. the way you want to. That's why we have a multiverse, not a single universe. Okay, so the 5 characters form, when you have 5 characters in your universe that match the pattern of the creative 5, okay, that's why we got 5 fingers, folks. When you have level 12 characters of a karmic nature, Luciferian nature, Lilithian nature, Borgian nature, and God nature that suit your heaven, then you've reached the highest level you can spiritually. You have full control over your own universe. You've won the spiritual Olympics. Okay, this is where we tie in with the idea of the rings of the Olympics. There's something interesting to point out here is that the Olympic rings have a problem. What is the pattern of the Olympic rings? It's in the form of a W. The W is a symbol of the adversary tag team, okay? Because if you get Lucifer and Lilith working with each other against God, it's really almost impossible to get past both of them. And that's what's been happening for human history. Lucifer and Lilith tag teaming against God and karma, with God only partially awakened, and karma off doing her own thing, because karma's already reached level 12 in God's universe, but karma's still developing her own character for her universe. And every universe has different topology, but these senior characters are represented in every topology. And that's where we have to tie back to the idea of the Merkaba being a cellular creation. Okay, let's get to the final version of it. Okay, so you've got a fully developed Merkaba that has 12 layers, 12 dimensions, 3 of physical experience, 3 of spiritual experience, or actually 4 of physical, 4 of spiritual, 4 of God level experience, your universe experiences. The Lilithian element within the nucleus needs to be at the highest level, level 12. All of these other pieces need to be at level 12 for you to be really at the same level as God. Okay, so if God develops a new version of himself, you have to adapt your versions till you have the same non-player character versions of these other souls that are not like you, that are key parts of creation, but are what you're going to be drawing on when you don't want to make a decision, when you're forced to do something that's not in your specialty. Okay, we can't do everything, we can't know everything. You will encounter situations that you just want to punt. That's when you take the solution from one of these other characters, from the Borg. If you're an NPC Borgian type character, you'll just go, okay, what did the original that I was a copy of do? And do that. If you're a karmic soul, you will take heed from the highest developed version of karma. If you're a Luciferian soul, you will take heed of doing the thing that is going to be the most orderly, the most preservational thing to do, even if it hurts somebody. Okay, this is the way Luciferian souls are. They will break the commandments to do what they think is good. Lilithian souls, well, they will just do whatever they damn well please. They will break anything to get their way. If that is not a dimension of yourself that you're very aware of, you're not aware of your ability to do evil, not even realizing you're doing evil, that's your Lilithian nature that you have not worked on. And it's going to come back and haunt you when you're under stress. Okay, so you've basically got, with these 5 characters, you've got 2 of them that in their mature form are male and female. The mature male archetypes are God and Lucifer. God is the one that will sacrifice himself for his children, will let some evil happen if it seems like the right thing to do for all of creation. So from a very big picture point of view, God will sacrifice himself for the children he loves most. Lucifer is more selfish, the more selfish male nature that will do what brings order and success to their environment. The 2 female archetype characters are Lilith and Karma. Karma is kind of the more feminine aspect of God, who will sacrifice for the greater good, who will try to make peace even with evil, which can be a stupid thing to do, right? So this Karma has a weak spot too. And the Lilithian female archetype is the dark side of the female, the narcissistic side of the female that is completely self-consumed, completely about, I don't care what it does to anybody else, I'm going to make the world like I want it to be. In fact, I'm going to pretend the world is already the way I want it to be. And if nobody conforms to the way I want it, then they're a bad guy. And this is how Lilith is identical with the woke cult that has taken over the globalist, celebrity worshipping, numby-gumby world. These characters that don't admit that there's any evil, or there's any evil that is not in me. Everything that's not like me is evil, is basically the Lilithian point of view. It's a very dangerous point of view. Okay, so where am I getting that? Those archetypes would not have developed without the invention of sex. Sex was a relatively late invention. And you can tie any religion back to these AI versions of the other characters, okay? So within a normal person would be similar to a proton, has 3 archetypes within them, has a Borgian nature that is just following instructions, running my program, has a Luciferian nature that is ordered selfishness, and a Lilithian nature that is disordered, chaotic selfishness. Okay? That is what the proton was. The pentaquark is what happens, like I was talking about ringing the bell takes a soul to become an angel, or an angel gets his wings, I think is the story that's told in that movie. When a pentaquark emerges, that is a soul getting to the highest spiritual level, with all five of the AI characters that make up their soul at the highest level. Those AI versions of these special souls have an analog in the spiritual world. Lucifer, the fully developed AI of Lucifer, is kind of the dark side of Christ, if you will. The dark side of Jesus Christ is the one who goes into the temple and it tips over all the money changers' tables and chides the Pharisees and the scribes, and you know, it's kind of a hellraiser. Okay, wants a better order, doesn't like evil, will do evil to fight evil. That's the Luciferian Jesus. There's a Lilithian Jesus, which is kind of what they're trying to create with this new Mary Magdalene cult, with the Mother Mary cult, is like separating out the part of Jesus that, oh, it's all good. We're good. We're female. Females are perfect. And oh, all forgiving, all loving. Oh, we just could love evil to death, and then it will become good. This is the light dark side of the Jesus movement. Okay, and you know that there's characters out there that have that kind of Jesus in their heart. That's why, you know, people coined the term plastic Jesus, because Jesus in anyone's particular perfect image can be either more like Lucifer or more like Lilith. Uh, the blended version of the Jesus archetype is more like God. Other versions are more like karma, where it's like, okay, well, let's just make this fair. You get two, you get two. Oh, you're a little bit shorter. Oh, well, we'll give you three. And then you start becoming more Lilithian because you start judging from a place of racial or sexual prejudice. Okay, so this is another source of the cognitive dissonance we have going on in our species right now. There are very few people incarnated in human form that have the five archetypes all at the highest level. There are a handful of characters that are operating at that highest level, and they tend to be the, you know, kind of in the shadows, the advisors. They're not the you know, the CEO types tend to be, at least most of the CEO types tend to be Luciferian. There are some Lilithian CEO types, not to get me wrong. And again, it's not a sexual thing, it's a personality thing. If you're a control freak, you want order, you want everything to be your way, you're more of a Luciferian soul. If you're like, you want to make it up as you go, change the rules to suit the situation, you're more of a Lilithian CEO. Okay? If you're constantly trying to balance between the various needs of your organization, you're more of a karmic leader. They tend not to be a very strong leader because they're constantly getting changed by, you know, somebody pushing, a Luciferian's pushing one way and the Lilithians pushing the other way. So they tend not to get to the highest levels of leadership. Karmic souls tend to be healers advisors, judges, not the top leaders. Very few get to be balanced in all the directions and become godlike. And they tend to be the least successful of any of these focused character types because they have to be so balanced. So what they do in the physical world may not seem like very special, but it could be hugely special in the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, these characters have a lot of power. They generate energy. They can transmute energy. They don't use it actively very often because they are more balanced. They don't have one set point of view. They don't have an idea, this is right, this is completely wrong. They have a more nuanced view. So they make their energy available to other souls that have similar resonance. And if you're one of these God level souls incarnated right now, you may feel very disempowered, feel like, wow, there's something I'm doing here, but I don't know what. I've got these sensations of paranormal activities, but I haven't maybe had as many paranormal experiences. I can't bend spoons like Uri Geller. I can't do remote viewing like a remote viewer. I don't have these overt materialistic paranormal powers, but I seem to have this source of energy that when it's activated allows me to do great things, to enable great things. And when I have these surges of energy, great things happen, even though it doesn't seem that I did anything directly to contribute to it. This is how the God level characters, the God characters, the ones that are actually going to be invited to the biggest after party when this apocalypse is over, they're not the souls that are, the big celebrities in the material world. I can promise you that. Those big celebrities are generally very young, inexperienced souls who are able to focus. They have incredible talent and capability, but they will not use it responsibly. Okay? They are souls like one of the better ones I can think of is Elon Musk. Okay? He's well intentioned. He wants to do good. He loves humanity. He's a very humanistic person. But he's got blind spots. People can use him and manipulate him knowing what his passions are. That describes Donald Trump too. Okay, he means well, but he's got a big ego. He's not so much a control freak though. Trump is a hard one to figure out. And that's what maybe bothers people or excites people about him is he's not somebody you can really put a finger on and say, what makes this cat tick? Is he a Christ or an Antichrist? Okay, and depending on your point of view, you might think one or the other. These are new emerging characters who are getting their first taste of power. Okay, if you're cast in a role like an Elon or a Trump, your scenario is going to make you very visible. The things that have to happen in your life are going to set up having a lot of power, having a lot of influence. And as I say, the characters are already defined in each version of space-time. Space-time emerges complete as a whole scenario, beginning to end. in every dimension. It's only an artifact that we think something is changing, something is variable. What's actually variable are the decisions you make, the choices you make that are not executed in this physical space-time scenario. Okay, so when you play a character in the simulation multiverse, you are basically riffing on a set piece character. Whatever soul gets to play Elon or Trump is going to be doing certain things in that role, guaranteed. Even if they chose otherwise, those alternate choices that they made will be executed in either their spiritual afterlife or their God level simulation. Okay, in a parallel universe. So, there is a version of Donald Trump that never ran for president, just decided to go enjoy his golf course life and play the game for the rest of his life. That may be this same Donald Trump we're seeing now. But he's in this physical universe, he's got to follow a certain pattern because that's how the game was designed. Okay, so back to the pentaquark thing. There's an important thing I need to help you understand. So the pentaquark represents a character that has achieved balance in all the 5 things that make a god. That's not easy to do, to advance to that level. That's the level you have to advance to become a senior creator, to be able to sit on the divine council. Okay, so every time we observe a new kind of pentaquark, you're seeing a new senior creator emerge. The nature of that senior creator depends upon the combination of quarks that you can get together. This is where things get quite interesting because the strangest thing happened. When did we see that? When did the first strange quark happen? Let's see. Let's look that up. Let's see. Oh my goodness. The first strange pentaquark was discovered in July 2022. That is the date that the Messiah became fully awakened. That pentaquark was the physical representation of God on earth. That was a sign. July 2022 was when the moment of no return. And if you look back at what's happened since July 2022, you've seen that we seem to be playing a completely different timeline, both in terms of what's going on in cosmology, what's going on in biology, what's going on in politics, what's going on in economics, what's going on in every direction with our species shifted in 2022. Oh, let me turn this off. Getting reminded to go get my son at preschool, but I don't have to do that today. Hush up. Stop it. Where are you doing this? I can't see it. Well, let's just turn the... Here. Technology. Okay, so this is like the other double whammy of what I've been telling you. I've been telling you that one sign was that we've been seeing all these new red dot galaxies from the James Webb Space Telescope that are challenging the whole idea of the Big Bang. Okay, this is another piece of it. This pentaquark discovery of a strange pentaquark is at that scale kind of like the Star of Bethlehem event that says, yep, Messiah is born. Not just born, but is actively preaching, has matured his message to the point of no return. And this is how Messiah lives go. Okay, you aren't just born the Messiah and know everything that Jesus knew and you're gonna do all these great things. No, you have to grow into it, and you get tested along the way many times. Some tests you fail and you have to take again. Other tests will lead you down a path that, okay, you weren't a successful Messiah. You turn down the path of corruption, of sin. Okay? And those characters that have a Messiah life, you know that you're in a Messiah incarnation when you get these dumps of data from the future aliens, because they are the ones who are making sure their timeline doesn't get destroyed by the adversary. Okay? In July 2022 was the last chance for the future time travelers of the old space-time to go try to get things back onto the track they wanted so that their team, the Lilithian hive mind team, would win in the end. The adversary would win. They're not doing that anymore. They still have players in the game who are pushing that agenda, but they're not getting support from the future like they were. Okay, the future time travelers are now playing by the new rules. The new God rules that say, no, you don't mess with time. We actually patrol time to make sure that nobody changes it anymore. We're not going to be letting characters go mess with our minds by planting false evidence in the past. And that has happened to try to divide and to confuse humanity. We're going to have to explore it all over again. And we're going to have to figure out, okay, all the archaeological finds that we found on this planet, all of the documents that we have, we got to go back and see what's true. Because you can't count on anything before the last couple of generations, since about the late 1800s. You go back further than that, and you're going to find major differences between the truth and what they're telling you the truth is. And this is why this woke cult has been actively trying to change the truth to introduce more confusion, and has been hiding disclosure, has been trying to bring about a World War III try to destroy the chosen species. They don't want this new era to happen. They know it's going to happen now, but they're trying to delay it long enough so that they can all go escape from the chosen planet and get closer to where evil has its power base in this galaxy or other galaxies. Okay, they are in retreat, not attack mode, but they are conducting a fighting retreat. Now, let's narrow in, let's close in and say, well, what does that mean for me? Me as an individual human being. Okay, each individual human being is represented in some way in every universe. In God's universe, you may only be a lowly proton or a neutron, one of these baryons that has 3 quarks. Okay? You may always be one of those. You may never advance to the God levels. The closest you can get then is kind of shown by this representation of the pentaquark. You see, because the pentaquark is made up of a baryon and a meson. That meson that goes with your baryon is your match. Okay? The baryons are the male particles, the protons, the neutrons. The mesons are the female particles. If you gravitate towards female characters, you're going to be playing an electron in most universes. And you will be looking for a baryon to make a pentaquark pair. When you find that pentaquark pair and you can join with it, that will get you to your heaven. It may be a heaven just made for 2. This is the truth behind all the stuff about soulmates. Okay, there are souls that have one single perfect match. And when they find that perfect other, they found their place just right. And they will be allowed to live that perfect life over and over and over as long as they want. Because they found a person that they can have a perfect family every time. They can have this wonderful environment to spend a life together, a perfect life together. Okay, that's for many more pedestrian souls is the most that they want. Okay, so that is what all souls are striving for, is what their nature conceives of as a perfect match. If you aspire to be a God level soul, to have higher power, to have control over your own universe, you're going to have to go further than finding your match. You're going to have to find a way to unite with that match to create a pentaquark, your own unique pentaquark, made up of your versions of the 5 primary characters. The strange one is God, who has only just found himself in what was it, 2022, July 2022. Here it is. Yeah. So that was the first strange pentaquark. There will be more strange pentaquarks, but they won't be the first. Okay, that's why nobody gets to be God but God. God is the first of every new species created on this special, perfect planet. Okay, so that first pentaquark is the pentaquark Messiah. If you want to be like God, you're going to have to create a similar event. They'll be making tons of them soon, because once they understand that this is how you make new gods, they're going to want to make them as fast as possible. This is one of the things that will synchronize into making new gods as fast as possible. The other synchronicity is the fact that God, the God Messiah, is now human. And new gods will be made in the highest heaven through sons of God and daughters of karma. In the old versions of the highest heaven, there was no sex. That's why the Bible talks about sons of God finding the daughters of man attractive. Okay? That was part of this shift to making heaven more equitable. Heaven is now an equitable place where God has sons and daughters. The daughters of God have a karmic nature. They have the nature of the better female, the noble female, the mother figure, not the helicopter mother, not the dragon lady mother. Those are Lilithian female characters. The nurturing mother, the mother that stays at home and takes care of the family and makes sure everybody has what they need. Okay, that is the kind of mother I had. She was a complete dingbat when it came to politics, economics, anything else, but she was the best mother you could possibly have. She was the best homemaker, the best wife you could possibly imagine. She was a karmic character, and we're not making enough of those karmic characters now because of the woke cult feeding women full of this feminist nonsense that says they can have it all. You can be man, woman, and everything all rolled into one. It's nonsense. You cannot have everything. God does not have everything. There is no almighty one that has everything. This is nonsense. It is a lie. It is a lie of the Lilithian adversary. And people are falling for it, and they're going to not get allowed to stay on God's planet when the event happens. Those folks are going to be taken away from this planet to colonies. Some of the colonies will be a better sort of heaven for maybe souls that want to, live the pioneer life, roughing it. Other colonies will be more like, I guess, the globalists want to make things, 15-minute cities and everybody does what they're told. And okay, that's what a Lilithian colony is going to look like. It's going to be very Orwellian. It's going to have a system run by entitled sinners. That's one direction that things are going to go some places, but not here. We fought that battle. It's not going to happen on this planet. It's not going to happen to the highest heaven again. They have been fighting for their Messiah candidates. They lost. Now, it's going to take a while to convince everybody what happened. Because as you probably are aware, a lot of people aren't in the same place about what's going on spiritually right now. Not as advanced as others. This is why I've been telling folks that what needs to happen next, what will happen, is what I call the Antichrist Olympics. So we're going to go through a phase of this game where things will be revealed. The main thing coming soon is disclosure about UAPs and what's really going on and what these UAPs are, the variety they are, what races are represented and what their agendas are, and how their agendas are shifting. Many people think that the tall grays and their short gray clone army are the bad guys. No. Their story is a little more complicated than that. The tall grays are future humans. They were defending the old space-time until they realized that the Messiah was fully awakened. Okay, this tall gray species is the Borg, are the ones that control the Akashic records. They can dump data into our brains and give us this enlightenment experience. What we do with it, they are watching, because sometimes that experience they'll do a dump, and you'll have this brief, oh, I'm one with everything. I see everything, but I don't understand anything, and you'll feel really good for a few months afterward, and then you're just back to the same old person. Other people will get some special message from this, and their life will change in a very specific direction. They'll feel like they have a mission to accomplish. Okay? They do, because that's folks from the future giving Messiah candidates their missions. They dump it in, and you do what you do, and it either happens, and it's always going to happen the same way in this space-time, because that's already set now. Your choices not to do it that way will make different space-time changes in spiritual universes or your own private universe that you won't be aware of till you reach God level. Okay, so these far future Borg characters are humans that develop in the Borg stereotype of they're sexless. They can't even reproduce anymore. That's why they make the little three-fingered clones, the short grays, because that's the only way that they can reproduce is through cloning. And if they clone themselves, there's always errors, so they don't do that. They make clones of these robotic short grays as kind of their slave species. Okay? And they've been looking for a new version of God that is going to produce a different path for humanity. Humanity will still take the path of becoming more Borgian. There are some humans that will become more Lilithian. Will end up getting assimilated by the bugger hive minds or other hive mind entities that are more beastly, more evil, more destructive, more single-mindedly selfish. And there are such species out there, and they're generally not welcome in the Galactic Federation. Welcome in the Milky Way. We got rid of the portal to Andromeda recently, so we're not going to be getting any more Andromeda strains until they solve their nanobot infection problem. We need to find all the nanobot control apparatus that they installed in humans. That's all coming out right now from people in the UAP community. They have been installing implants in people that allow those people to be controlled by the Andromedans. They're not our friends. They're not our wonderful, oh, we just want to help humanity. They're giving you a line of bullshit. They need our help more than we need theirs because they need our new pentaquark. If they ever want to be gods, they're going to have a pentaquark emerge in their image. Pentaquark is a human invention. We're the first ones that ever made one. In 2003, the first ones that, well, maybe they made them before, but without the strange pentaquark. We created the first strange pentaquark. That makes it a human invention. In order to take advantage of that invention, you have to incarnate as a human. All of these visiting species are beginning to realize that, and whatever their original agenda was coming to this planet, whether they wanted to wipe us out, farm our DNA, whatever, fill a zoo full of human cage, they're realizing that their original purposes don't make any sense anymore. And they want to, if they're good guys in general, if they're well-intentioned, they want to partner with humanity. They want to help humanity spread, because the more human souls there are in the physical universe, the more opportunities there will be for God-level characters to emerge. They are going to be creating temples that are essentially particle accelerators designed to produce pentaquarks. That will be part of the new ritual of religious science. Okay, the old stuff doesn't work anymore. You can still do it, and it has maybe limited effect. You can still ring your gongs and play your binaural beats and get high over Gustav Mahler. That's one of my favorites. But that's not the pinnacle of the creative process anymore. It's all about pentaquarks. There are musical equivalents that will become more important in music. The pentatonic scale is something that was invented fairly recently by humanity. That's an important piece of future music. The 12-tone scale is an important piece that was invented by humans. Making use of it, godly use, beautiful use, is not going to be easy. If you've listened to any of the 12-tone composers' music, you will know that most of it is just pure trash. It's like modern art in the museum. It just looks like a splash of paint that has no meaning. It's an art that has to be developed. It has been developed by some few composers from that era into something that has greater meaning. Trying to think of a good example to give you of George Rochberg is an American composer who grew up in that 12-tone school and creates very, very advanced music. I haven't listened to as much of his music as I would like, but his quartet, his first quartet, is a very masterful work that combines a lot of the ideas of modern classical composers with the, I would say the peak of classical music was the neo-romantics, the Richard Strauss, the Gustav Mahler, for me, would represent the pinnacle of human achievement in classical music. George Rochberg is one of the ones that continues that tradition. There are other American composers that have done great things in this postmodernist age. Howard Hansen, for instance, uh, Aaron Copland in a sort of a folksy way. At any rate, what else did I want to cover? Let me look at my notes before we finish. Oh, I think I'm going to mention one more thing before we finish. Something I don't talk about very often, but is a key piece of this. Uh, One of the preeminent authors of modern America is Kurt Vonnegut. He's not read as much anymore, and his work can be seen as fairly nihilistic. But there are a couple of things that he conceived of that are really important to what's going on right now. In his book Cat's Cradle, he invented a religion called Bokononism. And he conceived of a construct called a kurass. This is a group of people brought together for a particular mission who don't really know what their mission is, but for some reason they just keep running into each other until something that requires all of them to be involved happens. That's kind of the whole point of the novel. There was also a mention of another type of these, a specialized version of the kurass called a duprass, which is a group of two that sort of satisfy their mission requirements. There was this couple on an airplane that the main character of this novel met that were just like they had everything they needed in each other. This is foreshadowing of what I just shared with you today about how you might find your soulmate, your living pentaquark partner. Okay, if you find that partner when your natural life is over, and if that was that perfect match for you, that is the creation of a duprass. You can keep reliving that perfect life for as long as you want. And some souls, that's all they really want to do. I was so happy, I just want to do it over again. You'll get to do that, and you will still serve creation because all of the energy, all the spiritual energy that you create during that perfect incarnation is available for use elsewhere in the multiverse. And your representation elsewhere will be as this pentaquark, this average garden variety pentaquark. That's not a special one. It's not a strange pentaquark. It's not a godly one. It's just I reached the place just right. So now I'm a pentaquark somewhere, coming into existence wherever needed when an NPC pentaquark form is necessary. Okay, that becomes your standard representation. These pairs, if you will, are basically the template now for new pentaquarks who come to be into being and get a soul of a nascent god. And this is how you basically occupy your own creative universe with full awareness as a pentaquark. So it's kind of like the like the proton used to be. Okay, the pentaquark is the new God particle, not the Higgs boson. Okay, the strange pentaquark is the God particle. When we can create them, we're essentially creating a hole for a new God to occupy. The first time we did it on this planet, the chosen planet, was the hole that God occupied. All the new strange pentaquarks are going to be for demigods, not the first. That's the difference between God and any other soul in the multiverse. The precedence, the first. That's how God has been a leader, not an almighty leader. Didn't create everything, but basically established the first of every role in all creation, because many of the roles of creation were created before 4.5 billion years ago, before God started reincarnating, and he was just conscious all the time and actively involved in co-creation of new versions of reality. Okay? That's how everything that's settled got settled. All of the species that are visiting us now from other solar systems, other galaxies, whatever, have been doing so within the framework of old versions of space-time. They are characters, they're character patterns that developed more than 4.5 billion years ago. So long ago that most of them forgot who their creator was too, and they have religious disputes too, which are only now starting to get resolved as they see what's going on this very strange planet. So there is a process of convincing going on both within humanity and within the Galactic Federation. And that's why I say this Antichrist Olympics is going to be sorting that out. Information will be coming out, and it will be damning of some characters and empowering or rewarding for others. It will be more clear who was gumming up the works, who was trying to stop the apocalypse from happening, who was trying to help God come and wake up and help humanity finally succeed in their mission to create the human God Messiah. Okay? I call it the Antichrist Olympics because most of the characters on trial are going to prove to be either demon possessed or agents of the evil hive minds, or just plain evil characters themselves playing for their own side against everybody else. I think, you kind of can guess who some of those pure evil characters are that are just, the most selfish archetype you could find of the female or male. They're going to be going on trial. We're going to figure out who's who. Some of them are going to be on trial for quite a while because we have to get through all of their powers to figure out if they're really a good guy or a bad guy, a good witch or a bad witch. And the fun thing is that a lot of the techniques that we're going to use were taught us by a funny bunch of guys named Monty Python. Their method for determining a witch is actually going to work. We're going to be weighing people against a duck to see if they weigh the same as the duck. It's going to be funny as hell. It's going to be a reality show version of essentially Monty Python, because it's going to confuse the hell out of everybody's preconceived notions about religion, about ethics, about karma, It's going to challenge every possible ideology or religion that humans have held dogmatically near to their heart. Okay, it's not going to reward capitalists. It's not going to reward communists. It's not going to reward humanists. It's going to be revelatory of the people being put on trial in this Olympic trials, if you will. It's going to be kind of like that. It's going to be like an event. It's going to be silly. It's going to be funny. And it's going to be revelatory. The first season is going to reveal something very important that is held in quite high esteem by Catholic visionaries. The prophecy of the great Catholic monarch will come true in the first season of the Antichrist Olympics. And there will be a pronouncement of, okay, this is the great Catholic monarch. You are going to be living in a world that is modeled on not the Holy Roman Empire, but the Holy Roman Republic, as it should have been, as it was in the dim, dark past before Rome kicked out its kings. For whatever reason, maybe the kings had gone bad. If this gets into another talk that I'm not going to get into today about how bloodlines get anointed by karma and God, and how they lose their anointment over a number of generations. And it will be the same with this great Catholic monarch. His bloodline will become diluted and eventually will be supplanted by a new bloodline, maybe related, maybe not, that has been re-anointed by God. God doesn't stay on this planet. God's got work to do all over the place. Okay? God is not your God. He's incarnated as human, and that's now the form of the people that live in the city of God. That doesn't make all humans special. It just establishes the fact that this new center of space-time that was able to raise a Messiah, a successful Messiah, happened to be humanity in 1959 in Idaho Falls, Idaho. That was just the normal place for a Messiah to happen. That's how it was in the plan. How it had to happen. It's a character that was cast ahead of time. Okay, that character is going to get played again. When it gets played again, you won't be the original artist. You will be a copycat. You will have a chance to see what it would be like if you got to live in God's shoes. There are many such characters of previous versions of God in many, many species, in many, many peoples. Okay? The Hebrews were not the only chosen people. Israel are not the only chosen people. We're not the only species that has ever been chosen. We're just the one that got past the limitations of space-time. The new space-time we're in has no beginning, no end. You can go back as far as you want in time, as far forward in time, and you will not find a beginning or end. You can go as far away from this planet as you want to go, as your wormholes will carry you, and you will not find a limitation in the physical universe. That may be hard for a lot of scientists to grok, but it's actually a good thing for science because that means there will be no end of new science to be done. We will constantly be finding new species, new cultures, new challenges, new science, new chemistry that we've never seen before, and integrating it into the whole. It's going to be fun. It's going to be like Star Trek. Not the Hollywood Star Trek selling a bunch of woke cult nonsense. Oh, let's see, we've got to have so many black characters in the cast. We have to have at least one major character that's black. Oh, and one major character that's Asian, and none of the good characters can get killed, and all this nonsense that Hollywood does to make celebrities. It's not going to be like that. There will be local celebrities, both good guys and bad guys, on the Star Trek teams and on the adversaries that they encounter. It's not going to be cut and dried like Hollywood, where you know exactly who the good guy is and who the bad guy is, even if the identifications don't really work anymore. I can't tell you how damaging it has been to project this nonsense notion that Darwin Award winners are good guys. They're stupid guys. People have a natural desire to reproduce if they are healthy, happy human beings. If they have a desire to kill babies, if they have a desire to change their sex, if they have a desire to pretend to be a furry and make sure you call them their furry pronouns, they are mentally deranged. They are abnormal. They are not heroes. They are pitiable characters. Okay, they need help, not help doing the crazy things that they've deluded themselves into wanting. They need help getting uncrazy, finding their real, why they chose this incarnation in the first place. You chose the role that you're in, unless you're a newbie NPC character and don't really matter. You're just here for, because the Messiah is going to walk out the door in 5 minutes and he's going to go down the street and has to encounter a normal amount of people on the street and cars and stuff. Okay, that's what NPC characters do. They're there to make the environment more real. They serve a purpose. Their purpose is not to be a pain in the butt, not to think that their weirdness should be imposed on everybody else. Everybody else should have to accept their reality. Nah, maybe your reality is real in your afterlife, where you're heading or where you came from, but it's not real here. And if you came here from a place of the furries or the whatever you think you are, if you came here as a human during this time, it's because you were supposed to be a human at this time. You were supposed to have all these limitations, all these things you don't like. If you try to change them, you're not learning anything from that experience. You're denying the reality of your current incarnation. That's a big karmic mistake. It's your choice to make, and it may be defined that you're supposed to be that way in this simulation. Because remember, you're playing a character. But you know what your real decisions are, okay? If you decide to get a sex change, you could have said no. You may have been forced to get it anyway by circumstances, because that's what happened in this scenario. But in your soul, if you were saying no, you get no. That decision gets made in an alternate universe where you don't get the sex change. And if you start exploring your spirituality, if you know, these are people that need psychedelics. They need to experience the other side because they aren't getting how the game works. If you're not accepting the form you're in, the limitations you're in, the character that you chose or was assigned to you in this incarnation, you are missing the whole point of creation. And, you know, maybe you do need to do a little bit of waking up. Mostly we don't want characters to remember their past lives because that too can prevent you from learning the lessons you were sent to learn in this life. But there comes a point where if you aren't learning and growing and you're going down one of these dark paths of self-mutilation and destruction of yourself or of the people around you, your loved ones, then you need to do a bit of waking up. And there's nothing better for waking up than I can recommend than an ayahuasca ceremony, maybe a few nights with a very, very experienced and accomplished shaman. I wouldn't do it alone. I have. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't recommend the MDMT experience because it's too fast. And it's too much like a drug high, LSD, something like that. And you can see that there's people out there using it just like that. It's used as a recreational drug and it's not healthy. Okay? Spiritual substances are not meant to be recreational drugs. If you can abuse alcohol, it can be a spirit. That's why we have the communion with wine. It's a spiritual use of alcohol. It's not going to get you drunk, but it does open you up a bit to alternate realities, to question your current reality. This is the good in alcohol. This is the good in tobacco. The bad is overuse and recreational use and addiction. Okay? Treat the addiction, not the substance. Okay? We don't demonize people just because they're a recreational drinker. There are many people that can handle it. There are many people that can handle recreational smoking who don't get lung cancer. There are people who can recreationally use marijuana. There are others who become addicted to it and have long-term debilitating issues with it. Okay? It's true of every substance. It doesn't affect us all the same way. So, you know, you've got to take the attitude of, okay, maybe I can try this. Maybe it's going to work. I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to observe very, very closely what it does to me and whether that's good or not. I'm not just going to listen to some bozo that says, "Oh, I think every politician should take ayahuasca and then the world will be perfect." This is nonsense. This is low consciousness, Lilithian cult nonsense. Anybody tells you that there is one perfect thing that's going to make everything better, that is an adversary cult. Okay? Every soul is different. Every soul has different needs. Every soul has a different vision of what perfection is going to be. They may find that perfection in concert with other souls and form groups, form tribes. That's natural. It's good. When those tribes become adversarial, when they start viewing other tribes as enemies, despite the fact that they really didn't commit any sins. That's evil. Okay? If you hate Muslims because you're a Christian, you're an evil person. You've got a problem. If you hate Christians because you're a Muslim, you've got a problem. If you hate the United States government because you've been convinced that all of the world's problems are because of the deep state, you got a problem. It's not all bad. There are good people there. Yes, there are Lilithian agents embedded all over. This is a result of a process that was that started accelerating in 1666. That was the year of the anti-Messiah, Sabbatai Zevi. And the fallout from that has created basically all of these dark cults that have infiltrated our secular and spiritual powers, that have this demonic image of one perfect world government that is going to tell everybody what to think, how to think, when to think it. This Orwellian world government is evil. That's what they want to bring. That's what the Pope is arguing for. That's what the Dalai fucking Lama is advocating for. That's what the Hollyweird cult is advocating for. They want this one world order where the beautiful people can do whatever they want in their secret parties, and everybody else is, gets the scum, has to eat the bugs, has to live in the 15-minute cities and be constantly surveilled to make sure that they don't challenge any of the rich fat cats, the elite, who are in their special enclaves and Epstein Islands, and they depopulated deliberately part of Hawaii so that they could rebuild in their image this idyllic place. They even tried to make it look like it was some sort of religious thing by sparing churches. Oh, something soon. Look, they spared this one church. That must be the church that everybody should belong to. This is a this is a mind fuck, people. These weapons and things that they're using to destroy are directed energy weapons. Okay, they're not being used by good people. You don't destroy to build back better. That's not a godly way of creating. They are evil. Some of them think they're serving God by doing it. Well, I'm sorry. When Antichrist Olympics put you on the stand, we're going to find out just how much you really were serving God by what you were doing. Anything you've been doing to gum things up since 2022, since this event of the miracle of the strange pentaquark, I guess you might call it, has been willful sin. It was not necessary. Nobody had to die. Nobody had to be suppressed, shut up, hushed by an assassin's bullet. You fucked up, folks, if you've been playing that game, not realizing that the game has changed. And it's your own fault. It's your own character. It's your own personality that made those evil decisions that didn't need to be made. Anyway, I'm not sure when it's all going to go down because there's some other celestial events going on and a lot of moving parts. It's basically, you know, this first strange pentaquark is the trigger, is the event of no return. But we still have many other Messiah candidate souls that are still finishing their missions. Okay? There's going to be a point somewhere in 2025 that is going to be like, bang. The age of Aquarius is here. It's happening. Okay, so it's going to be really accelerating over the next however many months. I have some ideas about timing based upon the alignment of certain dates and events, but I'm not going to make any set predictions because I don't know the future. I see a future. I see my future. I see my godhood. And I'm telling you what I see. I don't know if that is the universe that you're going to be in. I can't tell you that. I can tell you that there are a lot of universes that you might be in. There are a lot of different versions of the apocalypse. And some are going to be very, very dark. Total extinction for this species. That's not the version I'm in. If you're listening to me, it's probably not the version you're in, although this is what's happening. There are some people that are still flickering between which of these universes they're going to end up in, depending on, you know, basically who they choose as their god. If your god is one of the evil ones, is the adversary, you're going to end up in the adversary's win column. The dark apocalypse, the old space-time. It's still out there. Because some players like to play the evil game. There are versions of God that resulted in evil futures. That's kind of their hell. You want to play on that side? Okay, yeah, we got a place for you. That's what creation's all about, trying to please all the players. Who says you can't please everybody every time? Doesn't know God, doesn't know the multiverse. Because what seems like hell to one person may be heaven to another, and vice versa. The hell universes, I wouldn't want to visit them. I have. I probably will again just to check up on them and see what their God is up to. But no, I don't have any great desire to muck with their enjoyment of their misery. I'm not a masochist. I'm not a sadist. I'm not a pedophile. I don't fall into any of the evil categories that we know are evil behaviors, are evil mindsets. And you say, what's the matter with being a masochist? You enjoy people hurting you. That encourages evil people to hurt. You entitle and enable sadists. You're not the good guys. Okay? No matter how you try to rationalize it. Oh, these bleeding heart liberals. Oh, I want everybody to have everything and everybody be equal. And oh, you're fucking masochists. Or you're pretending, and you actually would be selfish as hell if it ever really affected you. You're more than happy to give away everybody else's tax dollars, as long as it doesn't affect you, as long as you don't have 5 families of migrants living in your house, camping in your backyard. Fucking hypocrites. Any rate, I think that's what we needed to cover today. Like, share, subscribe, interact in any way you'd like to, and get to work on your pentaquark. Till next time, happy karma.